Opening tip, most memorable Harden's hit or Josh Hart's reaction? What do you guys think?
I'm going to go with James Harden's reaction because we have all done that, right? I have done that.
I have not.
And he basically said afterwards, it was the beard. I didn't even feel it.
That's nice.
Welcome to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols, and I am here with our NBA insider extraordinaire, Miss Ramona Shelburne, and of course, WNBA All-Star Chiney Ogwumike.
Glad to be here, Girl Squad. Let's go.
Exactly. You got the power trio up today. All right, coming up, we are going to talk about the reunion in Houston tonight. We have Chris Paul bringing the Thunder, yes, that's not a sentence I thought I would say last season, into Houston for the first time since he was traded. We will talk about that a little later on the show. But first, we're going to start in Northern California, where, yes, it's time to bring back, I'm just going to call it award-winning show within a show.
Yep.
These are the bays of our lives. Like sands through the hourglass, so are the bays of our lives. We are going to start in San Francisco, where things have not gone well for our heroes. The Warriors lost to the Clippers on opening night. Against the previously winless Thunder yesterday, they were down by 31 points at halftime. And Draymond and Steve Kerr, not happy. Take a listen.
The reality is we suck right now. And, hopefully we'll get better. We'll continue working at it and try to get better, but we're just not that good right now. Kind of figure it won't be the same, but I didn't think we'd be getting our ass kicked like this. It's pretty bad.
I'm looking forward to the Modelo that's waiting in my locker, and then yes, I'm looking forward to getting to New Orleans.
All right, so first of all, I hope, Steve, you got your beer, because after that, you needed it. Chiney, we knew that our Bays of Our Lives crew would struggle to replace one of their main characters that was written out to another role in Brooklyn. We know that Clay is still hurt, Kevon Looney, Willie Cauley-Stein still out. But have we gotten to the point where the issues with the Warriors supersede just their injuries?
I do think so. And defense has always been an issue, especially when it comes to the paint. Draymond Green, even though he's the Defensive Player of the Year, he's 6'5", 6'6". And so now their paint is extremely vulnerable. And you see so many players, we saw this in the preseason when they first played the Lakers, are attacking the rim at will. Opponents are putting up 130 on them. I think in the 35 seasons we've recorded stats, this is the worst 0-2 start we've ever seen. But yeah, when you have a Draymond Green who's great, it doesn't take away from the fact that, when you don't have Klay Thompson on the perimeter, Sean Livingston on the perimeter, even Iggy on the perimeter, you are just absolutely more vulnerable despite your resume, as a defensive stopper. So for the Warriors, I'd be extremely concerned. You see, their efficiency. This is not what we're used to.
Sinead, they were playing zone yesterday. They had to play zone because it was the only defense that they could play that resembled anything called defense.
Right.
When they would play something else called defense, that was not defense. That was like, here, you get a basket. You get a basket. The Warriors on opening night looked as bad as you could look. And we all kind of said, you know what, it's one game and the Clippers are really good.
And against the Clippers, right.
No, they might actually be this bad. And I think it was dawning on a lot of us as we started to watch them in the preseason, and I'm one of those card-carrying members of don't underestimate the heart of a champion. I think maybe on this show I started to think that I may have actually publicly said that they could be back in the finals.
You said that they
We're
could
gonna have to walk that back
this year.
We're going to have to walk that back, Rach, because one of the things that is abundantly clear when you watch the Warriors, when you're around the Warriors, is that the players in Warriors jerseys right now are not the Warriors. There is very little muscle memory on that team of how the Warriors have played for the past 5 years. There are 9 players out of the 15 on that roster that are 23 years old or younger.
That's what I'm going to say. So there's 6 guys who are in their first or second year.
Yeah.
So that is beginners basketball, right?
Yep.
And obviously so many key pieces from this run. And it's interesting because we saw the Warriors do what they did the last 5 years, and teams try to catch up or emulate them. And what we kept saying is, not everyone can do what the Warriors do because they just didn't have the personnel.
Right.
Well, now the Warriors also don't have the personnel, and they can't do what they used to do. Strong words, by the way, there from Draymond and Steve Kerr. As a player, Chiney, what do you do if you are a vet, if you're a Draymond on this team, and you want to be able... we've had 2 podiums worth now of him with the cursing and the upsetness.
Yes.
But what can he, because we know he's a really good leader, what can he actually do about it in the locker room?
He's not a one-man band, though. And it's sort of like I'm getting the whole it's above me now vibes. Like, this might be above me. We need to have, we need to go back to that whole mindset of, like, it's training camp. We're at point one, square one. D'Angelo Russell, not necessarily known as a perimeter stopper. Steph Curry, not necessarily known as a perimeter stopper. So for Draymond to even operate, it's just so much more challenging. And it's hard when you want to tell people, hey, this is how we play defense, when you're trying to find the new way you play defense yourself.
Right.
So, yeah, I think you just have to go back to square one and say, this is how we're going to play basketball. Maybe we're just going to ice screens and do that really well and then build off of it.
So I think when you watch them and when you're around them, what's abundantly clear is that the systems and the way they used to play don't exist anymore. They have to find a new system. And, this was the test for the Warriors. Is that Warriors system going to be the next Spurs system? Is that Warriors culture going to be the next Spurs culture? That's what I think is in front of them right now and what they have to figure out, because you used to be able to say, okay, Steph Curry's out a couple of games with an ankle injury. That's okay. We can plug Quinn Cook in because he knows how to run what we play. They don't have that anymore. They don't have enough players who actually know how they play.
Right. They do still have who we consider the greatest shooter of all time in his prime. They still do have a former Defensive Player of the Year who we know is a glue guy. They do still have a coach who will be in the Hall of Fame, who's got 8 rings on his fingers for being a player and a coach. So if you look at them as a team, not that lost, that won over the last 5 years off and on, but it's just a team in the NBA, they have a lot of good pieces still. Just as you say, we have to see if they can figure out how to make everybody else in that system catch up. It's going to be interesting, almost like a soap opera. We'll see. Let's get back to the Thunder, though, because after that game against the Warriors, they traveled to face the Rockets tonight, which means guess who's coming to dinner in Houston? Yep, Chris Paul will be in the building for the first time since being traded, and it'll be Russ's first game against the only other NBA team he has ever played for. So, Ramona, what are your expectations for this game tonight?
I don't know if I'm feeling the whole Chris Paul revenge game. You feeling that? Like, if this game was in Oklahoma City, it would be a different story. I think this would be a heartwarming story of Russ coming back. I think he'd be warmly embraced by the fans there. Chris Paul, I don't know if he was there long enough for them to have a very visceral reaction. Plus, they upgraded. They got Russell Westbrook. So I think it'll be a big deal for Chris Paul, but I don't know if it's a big deal for the two teams.
You're absolutely right. I'm from the 281, the 832, the 713, from Houston, Texas. And my big sis, NECA, she's been a Fairweather Rockets fan because they've only made it past the second round, third round for a couple times, right? She's always liked the Rockets. She loves this team. There's just a different vibe and energy around the Houston Rockets now. And it's funny because if I told you that James Harden went 2 for 18 from 3, we'd be like, oh, the Rockets must have lost. They must have got blown out. No, they won. They won. Russ went 1 for 3 from 3. This might be the team that actually is built to sustain poor shooting nights just because of their tenacity. And also, they might have an underrated bench. Eric Gordon's still coming off the bench. 4 other players outside of James and Russ were in double digits. So, I'm looking at this Rocket team, it's tough to be Chris Paul in this situation. But I feel like there's a lot of positivity happening on both ends. But in Houston, I think the energy is for sure real.
Right. Look, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a big Chris Paul homecoming game. It could feel like a revenge game to him because he thought that he was coming to Houston from LA to be part of this team for what that contract he signed for 4 plus an option, right? It's for a lot of years. And instead, he was dealt off to a rebuilding team. So we'll have to see what his energy is like tonight. I'm very curious. I'm sure that they will do something nice for him. I don't think any of the fans will be weeping at the sight of Chris Paul again, but I think that he is probably very focused on doing well. I want to get you guys about the Timberwolves, too, because they are off to a very impressive start out west. They are 3-0 after a win Sunday over Miami. Andrew Wiggins scoring 16 points in the final 6 minutes of that game alone. Now, if you remember back during training camp, Karl Anthony Towns said folks should not sleep on Minnesota this season. Kendrick Perkins reacted to that right here on The Jump. Take a listen.
Karl Anthony Towns, guess what? I'm sleeping, and I'm sleeping with the AC on 60 and the box fan blowing in my face, because guess what? I don't believe you. Listen, they gave you you and Wiggins all the praise. They gave y'all the money. They gave y'all the coaching change. They got Jimmy Butler out of there. It's time to put up and shut up.
Kendrick got a lot of attention for those comments. The Timberwolves social media folks did not forget, tweeting, quote, sleep tight, Kendrick Perkins, with the West standing, showing Minnesota atop the conference. Now, Kendrick, not unnerved, he responded with a sleeping emoji. And then Karl Anthony Towns chimed in, tweeting, quote, hope your AC broke, referring to Kendrick's quote. Kendrick followed with, I'll just borrow the money from Tibbs or
That is
Jimmy
a heck of a.
to fix it.
I'm here for this.
Yes.
Janae, you were there for the original Petty from Kendrick Perkins that day. So talk to me. Is it time to stop sleeping on the Timberwolves?
First of all, what Perk was saying had us all rolling. But I'm proud to say that I'm right. I was right. I think that this season it will go as far as Karl Anthony Towns goes. Right now he's averaging 32, 13, 5, 3 steals, 2 blocks. This team will go as he goes. And right now, is he not the MVP favorite? I know it's a small sample size. We've got 3 games. But what I'm saying
wants
is
to be MVP
the
this
list.
morning. Yes.
Outside.
Here's what he is.
His team is undefeated.
He was just named Conference Player of the Week.
Thank you.
There you go. Let's start there.
Yes, precisely. But after week 1, when we start these lists, he's at the top. They're undefeated. He's giving you 30 and 13, and they're playing great basketball. But on the other end, what I'm really proud of is Andrew Wiggins. And I saw it was funny. They put Andre Wiggins. That was a little subliminal. But when he hit those 3 threes, it was so amazing to see his teammates just run and just support him. Because we all have questioned how engaged is he when he plays. And just to see that he's ready to make this next step and to see a team that really just gets surrounded by, the upcoming talent of these 2 guys, I was just really thrilled to see on the outside Wiggins and on the inside Karl Anthony Towns still hold it down.
Like, there's no excuses for them anymore. I don't think it's a big enough sample size for us to say anything about the Timberwolves other than they've gotten off to a nice start. I've known that Karl can put up really good stats in the past. That has never been a question with him. The question is, do those stats translate into winning? And I think right now they are. It's a good start, but there's no excuses in that. Okay, it's not Tibbs' fault anymore. It's not Jimmy's fault anymore. This is your team now. This is Karl's team. This is Andrew's team, and they're going to go as they go. And I think they've empowered them to be the leaders of this team. Let's see if they can lead more than just in these first 3 games.
It's also Ryan Saunders' team. And look, he did coach for half the season last year, so it's not like this is his first 3 games. But it seems like, at least so far, he has gotten guys to buy in since training camp. And what you pointed out about all the teammates rushing Andrew Wiggins, I think that's important because the bottom line is Karl Anthony Towns can play his head off on an island, and if it's just him, I'm not sure that as he goes the Timberwolves season. They need Andrew Wiggins to be a different kind of player consistently than he has been. We don't usually see a player change with that consistency in their 6th or 7th season, but hey, if they can get him to do it, he's got the talent. So to me, that is going to be the biggest thing to watch. We got so much more coming up on The Jump. Coming up, Frank Vogel is not ruling Boogie Cousins out from returning to the Lakers at some point. But is it realistic for Cousins to push for a return this season? We got the Lakers expert to my left, so we will get to that. But before we go to break, time for our distant replay. It's this date 10 years ago. Hey, look, it's Carmelo Anthony.
Hey.
Oh! Wow.
Oh, snap.
Was spectacular.
Look at Chauncey. He's like, that's my little protege.
Like they're still standing. They're still standing.
I would still like to see Melo on an NBA court this season. I'm just saying.